Brothers and sisters, let me take you to a country that wears two faces. In the north of Senegal, the sun is a king that never rests. The air is dry, the earth is hard, and the wind carries the taste of dust. This is the Sahel, where rain is short, and life depends on every drop from the sky. In the south of Senegal, the Casamance River flows wide, carving a great green ribbon through the land. At its mouth is a miracle of nature, the mangrove forests. These are not ordinary trees. They grow in salt water, their roots like fingers holding the earth, their branches protecting villages from storms, and their tangled roots giving shelter to fish, crabs, and oysters. It is a land of two faces, but both faces were once smiling. Senegal is now one of Africa's brightest examples in the fight against deforestation and desertification. Millions of trees are planted every rainy season in the Great Green Wall Belt. Tens of thousands of hectares of mangroves have been restored in the south, one of the largest reforestation projects in the world. Vegetables and fruits are grown where nothing grew before. Women are at the heart of it all. Other African nations look to Senegal and see that it is possible, that the desert can be pushed back, the sea can be held at bay, and the land can feed its people again. Then, came the years of dry tears. In the early 1970s, the rains began to fail. At first, people thought it was just a bad season. But then the drought stayed, year after year. The north suffered first. The millet fields withered. Groundnut plants shrank and died. The wind picked up the dry soil and carried it away. Goats and cattle grew thin, their bones sharp against their skin. Farmers watched helplessly as their herds, their pride, their wealth, collapsed one by one. Children cried at night from hunger. Mothers had nothing to give them except water, and even that was hard to find. In the south, the Casamance River slowed to a trickle. Roads and embankments, built without care for the water's needs, blocked the river's natural flow. Without fresh water, the mangroves began to die. Their leaves turned yellow, then brown, then fell into the salty mud. Fish disappeared. Nets came up empty. Oysters rotted in the heat. Crabs and shrimp vanished from the shallow waters. In just a few years, thousands of hectares of mangroves were gone. The green wall that had stood between the sea and the villages crumbled. Storms pushed further inland, washing away fields and homes. Families began to leave. In the north, they fled the advancing desert. In the south, they fled the rising sea. Some went to Dakar, others to neighboring countries, carrying nothing but their children and the clothes they wore. By the mid-1980s, Senegal was facing two disasters at the same time, desertification in the north and mangrove destruction in the south. The arid north was losing its soil and vegetation. The fertile south was losing its water forests and its fish. Women suffered the most. In the north, they walked for hours to find water and firewood. In the south, they had to buy expensive fish because their husbands could not catch enough. Children dropped out of school to help in the struggle for survival. It was a time when smiles were rare, and hope was almost gone. But Senegal did not give up. The government of Senegal, seeing the danger, reached out for partners. The International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, and other global friends joined hands. But the real heroes were not sitting in offices, they were out in the villages, in the fields, and in the mud. The government launched two great battles. In the north, Senegal joined the Great Green Wall of Africa, a bold plan to plant a belt of trees across the Sahel from the Atlantic to the Red Sea, stopping the desert and bringing life back to the dry lands. In the south, a massive mangrove reforestation project began, aiming to restore the green shield of the Casamance Delta and bring back the fish and oysters that had once fed entire communities. And in both battles, the women stepped forward. In the north, they carried watering cans to the fields. They dug holes in the hard earth, planted tiny saplings, and built fences from sticks and wire to protect the young trees from goats and cattle. They planted acacias for gum, fruit trees for shade and income, and fast-growing species to block the wind. In the south, women tied their skirts high and waded into the muddy water of the delta. With baskets of mangrove seedlings balanced on their heads, they moved in lines, planting each seedling deep into the soft ground. They worked in the sun and the rain, with babies tied to their backs, planting row after row like farmers sowing hope. They knew the truth in their hearts. If we plant, we will eat. If we plant, we will live. The change began slowly. In the north, the first trees of the Great Green Wall grew just a little taller each year. Their roots began to hold the soil. Their shade cooled the earth. The wind slowed. The rains, when they came, stayed longer in the ground. Farmers saw a miracle, grass growing where there had been only sand. They began planting millet again. Then they tried tomatoes, onions, carrots, even watermelons. What had been called desert was now giving vegetables and fruits. Women formed cooperatives, growing gardens together. They sold their harvests in the market. The money bought schoolbooks, medicine, and clothes for their children. Smiles began to return. In the south, the mangroves came back. Slowly at first, just green shoots in the mud. Then taller and thicker each year. Fish returned to the roots. Crabs crawled back into the shallows. Shrimps darted between the branches underwater. Women learned oyster farming, a skill that turned the mangroves into a source of steady income. Now they could sell fish, crabs, shrimp, and oysters. They no longer depended on distant markets. The forest was their store, their bank, their future. Today, 50,000 families in Senegal live from fishing, shellfish, and mangrove products. And each year, 1,000 more hectares of mangroves are planted. The trees, both on land and in the water, became more than just plants. They became a shield, blocking desert winds in the north and sea storms in the south. A market, with gum arabic, fruits, vegetables, and fish to sell. A school, because with money from the land, children could learn instead of work. A clinic, because better income meant better health. Women gained power. They controlled the gardens, the oyster farms, the mangrove planting. They decided how to spend the income. They became leaders in their communities. Walk into a mangrove forest at dawn. The air smells of salt and life. Birds sing from the branches. Fish splash in the water. Monkeys leap from tree to tree. Oysters grow thick on the roots. It is a living city. A city where every leaf, every root, every drop of water has a role. A city built not by machines, but by nature, and restored by human hands. From the dusty winds of the Sahel to the green tides of the Casamance, Senegal has walked a long road, from suffering to smiles. The droughts of the 1970s and 1980s could have broken this nation. Instead, they planted hope. They proved that when women lead, the desert retreats. When communities plant, the rivers flow again. When Africa stands together, no land is too lost to save. And so, brothers and sisters, Senegal is not just fighting desertification, it is leading a green revolution for all of Africa. From dry dust to green hope, this is the story of Senegal.